So we just looked at the mixtape for A Desert Island. So I wanted to show you guys what that would look like as an actual document. So you can sort of see all this junk piled up on my desktop. Um, Really what you're looking at here is all the links to the images and logos over here. So I'll get rid of that. Um, we're going to talk a lot about things like style sheets. So this is the list of style sheets for this document. And it's very important that when you label these things, you know exactly what style sheet they're for. So 28-page book plus cover. There's things like text heading din, basic paragraph brown, pull quotes, song tracks. So song tracks being the actual track number of the song itself up here. Um, the time of the track, which is up here, that's a style sheet. Um, you know, uh, the singer copy, so that's this down here. So there's a ton of style sheets. If you actually look at my document setup for something like this, you'll see that there it starts with a single page because every document has to start with a single page, and then it basically just going to zoom out a little bit. And then basically it sets up in spreads as you go through. So you'll see each one of the illustrators and their work. And the text is primarily on the left side. And then for interest's sake, there's a couple times where I'll switch it to the right side just for pacing. So as you go through the document, this is sort of what a document like that looks like. There's the last page. So that is the inside. The second part of the document is the cover. So I'll click over to that, and this is basically what a cover looks like. So if you look at my pages palette, there's 4 pages. So outside back, outside front, inside front, inside back. So you'll see that circling this is the cover and then the back cover. So this would get folded, and in this case it was saddle stitch, meaning that it was stapled. And then these are the pages. So this would be the inside front cover and then the inside back cover. So the rest of the document that I just showed you would all fit with inside that. So I thought that might be an interesting thing to look at. Hey guys, I thought I would take you through a few print projects. So just so you can sort of see, you know, how each one has its own tone and sort of look and feel. This was a project I did this summer. It was for Apathy is Boring. So it's a project that is meant to reach out to young people and inspire them to vote. And so this document sort of is a case study on the actual organization. So it tells the reader what Apathy is Boring does and how they help. And so as you can see here, this is just a set of spreads. So this is one of those documents that was a lot of elements to juggle. So on the cover, you know, it's kind of a plain Jane image. But this is one of those projects where you don't hire a photographer, that the client gives you photographs and then you try and work with them the best you can. So you can sort of see this on the right hand side. This is a typical spread with a set of recommendations. So I've treated the images with a duotone, so they have a little bit of a different feel. Type can sit on it a little better, and you sort of see in the text itself. I'm using a series of rules to break up a lot of information in this document. And then this would be a typical sort of section spread. So a section spread is something where it introduces an idea. So it's much like a chapter in a book. So with each section spread, I would do sort of these kind of funky illustrations, have some numbers with them. So you can sort of see there's a headline, introduction, there's some subheads, some stats and numbers. Here's my folios, and folios up here as well, sort of tell you where you're at in the document. So that was a fun project I worked on this summer. Let's see, I'll show you a couple more. Maybe I'll show you a couple older, let's see if I'll show you a couple older ones. Let's see here. I think I've showed you these ones. These are these were a series of foil stamped and die cut books to get Vancouver the Olympics in 2010. So there's a series of 4 of them. So obviously they had to be English and French, very super high end. So this was a foil stamped, meaning it was very shiny cover. And then each one was meant to make the case as to why Vancouver deserved to get the Olympics. And so this was seen by, it was given in a hardcover box to every Olympic voting member to make the case for Vancouver. And interestingly enough, Canada was the only country that actually hired a design firm to do that. So every other country that had to have these books to make the case were kind of, put together in Microsoft Word. And so these ones stood out pretty nicely. So you can sort of see, obviously, lots of beautiful photographs of the province, as much photographs of the province as we could get in there, and then sort of basic information, simple, obviously red color palette. Yeah, so that was one of the more important sort of print projects I've worked on. I was very happy that we got the Olympics after that. Let's just look at a couple, maybe a couple older ones, like I said. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, sorry about that. I was kind of losing my head as to where everything was. So this was a project for the Port of Vancouver. So every year they do an annual report and a social environmental report. So you can sort of see this is sort of really a huge industrial shot of their cranes, and then some custom icons that I did to sort of explain what types of ships come into the port itself. It came in a folder, so this folder actually held 2 different books that we did. Then you sort of see the folder open and the 2 covers of the books. And you can see how the very simple color palette, which belonged to the port itself, very simple sort of approach of using a band across the covers. Yeah, and there's so I really loved this picture because so this was one of the books, was the 2013 financial report, and this is a front end of one of the huge tankers that comes into the harbor, and I just like the idea that it had these numbers down the side of it, because the financial report obviously is about numbers. And then yeah, you can sort of see lots of sort of graphs and charts and splitting up information. This was for the Open Society, and I think I've mentioned this one to you before, but if I haven't, this was a box that I designed, and it held 16 books, and we printed a book every couple months, and those books would be sent to every voting member of the United Nations, and those books were meant to raise awareness for different issues of how governments needed to change drug policies and things like that. So starting with this kind of patterned color palette with lots of white. These were some, and then on the front there's a quote here, and then some quotes from Kofi Annan and some different politicians from around the world, and then the actual books themselves. You can see some of the topics: the impact of drug policy on women, drug courts, evidence of on a popular intervention, the impact of drug policies on children. So really topics that you wouldn't want to do this with photographs, because you would never find photographs that you can't take photographs of this type of topic and it just wouldn't work, because nobody wants their photographs putting in these documents. So again, using a very pattern look and then a silhouette sort of approach to the different books. And then you can sort of see some very heavy information and graphs, but again, trying to pace these things so they're primarily white with some smaller hits of color, different elements, so intros and pull quotes, things that would make it interesting. Yeah, so that was a really sort of rewarding project to work on. You can sort of see some more of it through here. This one I did about three years ago. This was for the Vancouver Foundation. So this is a report on how people in Vancouver see themselves, how they like their communities, their way of life. So it's called Connect and Engage. With this book, what I wanted to do is actually have people in it, why not, and have a balance of sort of infographics, but have it almost like a newspaper sort of feel. So this is a really oversized book. It's quite big. And then you can see these two people sort of connecting. So this was all part of a photo shoot. And then as you actually go through the book, you can see it has community connection. So these are all stats on community connection. So I did these sort of big duotones so the numbers would stand out, but you still had a photograph. Lots of charts and graphs in here, some infographics. Yeah, so, and then that was also, as part of that, to promote it, we also shot this little infographic video as well, which is sometimes these projects can have other elements besides just publication. So you can sort of see this guy on the front of the book here. It's also the guy in this video. So the video really is just a promotion of the actual publication that was about to come out. So this was sent to media members around Vancouver. So just using, we just really shot it from the front of a car and then overlaid the stats on top of it. But you can sort of see, you know, the colors and everything tied into the book. So yeah, it's these types of things that, you know, give you a nice companion piece as well. Maybe I'll show you, this one is, let's see, this one is kind of fun. You probably like this one. I was asked to design 28-page book. I could do anything I wanted. It was for a printing company in Toronto called and the magazine's called Wayward Arts, and they hire like top design firms to take an issue and do an entire magazine on it. So the only thing that we were restrained with was the actual each design firm over 1 year had to do something on obsession. So I decided I would go on the internet, and I literally found people talking about their obsessions and confessions. So I called it 15 Online Obsession Confessions. And I tried to give it an old sort of sideshow, freak show feel to it. And it's all illustrated. And again, I hired a bunch of illustrators and photographers. And I found all these crazy stories of people talking about their obsession. So this is an amazing artist out of New York, and so he did this illustration, and it was a website where people actually thought they were vampires, and they talked about vampires being real. So he writes, Dracula coasts, not fly or nothing. My teeth are sharp, and I don't know. I do like blood. I think I am a vampire. I can coast at night. So I tried to leave the interesting thing about this was I couldn't use their names and things like that, but I tried to leave the writing as the same way that they sort of wrote online, and then the artist just loves sort of working on these. Yeah, this was a great story about someone that thinks snakes actually have feelings. So yeah, this artist out of Toronto did this amazing sort of snake illustration and then a heart around it. So you sort of see when you're doing these publications, you try and paste them. So this is a double page spread with all the art on this side and the writing on this side. This has a very much kind of sideshow, kind of vintage feel to it, which is very different than the Vancouver Foundation, which I just showed you. This one, this was all about someone thinking that they ran into aliens in a park, and the aliens were dressed in like 1800s or early 1900s garb, and they were saying they thought that's what an alien would think a human would look like. So yeah, this photographer did a great job with that. So some of them I wanted to make big enough that you could actually have the photograph take up the entire spread. This was one that I did. So here you can see I've actually blown up the text just so that the pacing of the book was mixed up a little bit. So we go from double page spread with text and then kind of a pull quote. Same here, except it's covering both pages. And then on this one, just one simple, bold statement about the person. So this person, I'll read it. I'm obsessed with Alyssa Milano and her dental floss, and the crew that worked on the set of Who's My Boss are completely taking advantage of me on eBay. So he was buying what he thought was Alyssa Milano's used dental floss because he was obsessed with her. So I did this illustration here of this dude sort of holding this dental floss with a big smile, and up here he's kind of imagining her flossing her teeth while she's naked. So, and then on the side.